Systemic racism can be defined as the complex intersections and interactions between various structures and policies in our lives, which especially disadvantage Black and Indigenous peoples of color. These intersections occur between healthcare, education, housing access, employment, community policing, incarceration, and many other facets of society. The systems which uphold these institutions are created in a way that they uphold white supremacy, or the idea that white people are superior to all other races and ethnicities.
A counter-argument often presented is that racism no longer exists in America, as equal opportunities are afforded to everyone regardless of their background. However, while the racism may not be overt, it is still built into the intersections mentioned previously. Here are some statistics to show how pervasive racism is in structures such as healthcare, housing, and incarceration rates. Black mothers in America are more than 3 times as likely to die in childbirth when compared to white mothers. Black life expectancy is an average 5 years less across all demographics when compared to white counterparts.
Similar disparities exist in housing access as well. The median income for Black homeowners is only 59% of that of white homeowners. The median net worth of Black homeowners is even lower, at just 8% of that of white homeowners. These numbers are based on statistics as recent as the 2017 census. In addition, segregation still exists in the form of gerrymandering, with primarily Black families forced into neighborhoods with crumbling infrastructure, limited utilities, and lack of access to schools and employment. Incarceration and policing rates show how Black people are much more adversely affected by the justice system in America. Black men and women are incarcerated at a rate of 5 times the imprisonment rate of white people. In 11 states, 1 in 20 adult Black males are in prison. These heightened rates are because Black people are more likely to be sentenced to harsher crimes for similar offenses committed by white people. The incarceration rate for Black drug users, for example, is almost 6 times that of white drug users.
These disparities exist because of America's sordid history of slavery, racism, and oppression. While these things may be outwardly banned from our society, their effects are still felt today. Slavery existed in this country for almost 100 years, which is more than a third of America's history. The Civil Rights Act was only passed 56 years ago. There are people alive today who can remember segregation and the horrible prosecution faced by Black people in the United States. The effects of these atrocities cannot be wiped out in a few decades.
Given these statistics, it may seem difficult to overcome the prevalence of systemic racism in our lives. However, there are ways to become an ally and lift up our Black and Indigenous people of color friends and family. The first step towards becoming an ally is to educate yourself. There are so many readings to learn about the Black experience in America, as well as experiences from Black women and Black members of the LGBTQ+ community. There are several resources online which provide not just history and statistics about systemic racism, but also subjective experiences, which are just as important. Examples of websites to visit will be included at the end of this video. It is important to note that we should not rely on our Black and Indigenous POC friends, family, and colleagues to explain systemic racism to us. This is expecting them to perform the emotional labor of educating us when we should instead learn about such issues ourselves.
Another way to act as an ally is to support causes linked to combating systemic racism in America. These causes include the Black Lives Matter movement, the Bail Project, Color of Change, Race Forward, and several other groups dedicated to bringing up the voices of Black people in the United States. Several of these organizations conduct charitable work, raising money for people in need. Consider donating or volunteering with these groups so they can better the lives of more people.
The hardest step to take is if you see something or hear something, say something. If you hear your colleague make a racist joke, speak up. If your relative makes racist comments against a neighbor, say something. It's easy to normalize these statements as just the way people are, but when we all do that, we become complicit in the oppression of Black and Indigenous people. It's hard to stand up to those who we may be close to, but if we all take the steps to do so, then we can slowly change how the stigma around saying something isn't okay. Systemic racism is a colossal problem and won't go away because we read a few books or donated some money. However, these steps are the most important ones because more and more people are acknowledging the problem. It will take lifetimes of work to reverse the effects of systemic racism, but if we come together, then future generations will be more free from injustice and inequality.
Please follow these resources to learn more about systemic racism and what you can do to become an ally.